Welcome to Sociology Vibes, where we simplify challenging ideas into easy to understand insights. Today, our focus is on the explanation of the social construction of race and what is meant by racialization. Let's begin with the definition of race. Race is a social and not a biological reality. Rather than genetics, society gives meaning to race. Race is a classification created by people, and over time, this classification continues to change. Sociologists view race as a social political construct, meaning the definition is social, created and assigned rather than biological. Scientifically, race does not have a biological basis. Humans are about 99.9% genetically identical to one another, and there is more variation within the so-called racial groups rather than between them. What people think of as races are populations with minor adaptations to different geographic environments, for example, like skin pigmentations. This is why scientists, including sociologists, say race is a social construct, because the way we group people into racial categories doesn't reflect real biological divisions, but rather social and historical divisions. These racial categories are like saying that right and left-handed people belong to two different races. Societies throughout history divided people into groups based on religion, nationality, or even social class, rather than skin color. Over time, however, race became a system of classification tied to power, privilege, and inequality. Sociologist W.E.B. Du Bois asserted that race is not based on biology, but is a social idea used to justify discrimination and inequality. Sociologist Howard Winant developed the racial formation theory, which explains that race is constantly being reshaped by laws, media, and culture. Racialization is the process of attaching social, economic, and political meaning to racial categories. It's how certain groups become labeled as racial groups, and how stereotypes, power, privileges, or disadvantages get assigned to them. Historically and politically, laws including segregation in the United States or apartheid in South Africa legally defined racial groups and assigned different rights to them. Now, in 1790, the first U.S. Census had three categories: free white males and females, all other free persons, and slaves. These labels were designed to enforce taxation, voting rights, and the Three-Fifths Compromise, which counted enslaved people as 3/5 of a person for political representation in Congress. After the Civil War and the end of slavery, Jim Crow laws from the late 1800s to the mid-1960s legally enforced racial segregation. These laws defined people by race, often using the one-drop rule, meaning that anyone with even one black ancestor was legally considered black. Black Americans were barred from voting, denied access to quality schools, forced into separate public facilities like buses, bathrooms, restaurants, and excluded from housing and jobs. This institutional racism on a societal level made race a legal identity, turning social ideas about racial differences into enforceable laws that maintain power imbalances and social hierarchies for generations, and their impact is still with us today. Also today, the U.S. Census allows people to write in their racial identity. However, it still categorizes people into racial categories. These racial categories are continually changing, further demonstrating that these are social and political constructs and not fixed biological characteristics. Consequences of racialization include stereotyping, prejudice, and discrimination. Racialization isn't just about labeling or categorizing people. It's about how these labels impact opportunities and experiences. Here are a few examples. Job application with quote-unquote racially coded last names like Rodriguez or Washington receive fewer callbacks than names that are perceived as quote-unquote white. The stereotype that certain jobs are meant for certain racial groups are like assuming that Asian American people are naturally good at math, or that Black American athletes are more talented at sports. The stereotypical portrayal of racial groups in the media influences how people perceive and treat groups of people in everyday social interactions. This includes racially constructed beauty standards, with lighter skin and Eurocentric features often being idealized. The criminalization of certain racial groups, for example, people of color receive harsher sentences than white people for the same crimes. Understanding that race is a social construct helps us see that racial inequalities are created by societies and therefore subject to change. It helps us recognize racial biases, question stereotypes, and think critically about how race influences daily experiences, opportunities, and policies. And that makes sociology worth exploring further, don't you think? Thank you for watching. Be sure to comment below with your thoughts, questions, or any topics you'd like us to explore next. Let's keep the conversation going and our community growing. See you in the next Sociology Vibes video.